Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Judge.
Morning, Your Honor.
I will call Deaf Smith County case cause number DR-2024G-095. This is an adversary hearing involving the Zepeda children. Ms. Schulte is with us representing the department. I've got a lot of people in the waiting room. I don't know who would be associated with CASA.
Maybe Monica Olivas?
Okay, she's in there. Okay, we'll get her in and she'll tell us if she has a volunteer that needs to come in. Mr. Adams is with us representing the children. Mr. Northern is with us representing the father, Mr. Zepeda Jr., who is, I assume that's him with you, Mr. Northern? Yeah, he's waved his hand. That's good. Okay. I don't see the mother, Miss Cruz, in the waiting room. Let me just go down the list of everybody I have. I know some of them are witnesses because I've seen your witness list, but I have Patricia McLean, Julie Van Gelderen, Haven Doucette with St. Francis, Haiti Herrera, and Keisha Hendrick. Do we need any of those in right now?
Haiti Herrera is also CASA. Patricia McLean and Julie Van Gelderen are investigator and covering supervisor.
Okay.
And Judge, I don't know if you want to bring all the witnesses in or not, but I am planning on invoking the rule.
Okay. Let me just get everyone in, then I'm going to have to back them out. Let me make a list of who's going to come back out.
You need to go ahead and leave. They invoked the rule. Do you want them sworn before they leave?
I don't know, not necessarily, but I need him to stay until I admonish him.
Okay.
Okay, we're still having some connecting to the audio. Well, Yuri Flores is still trying to connect to the audio. For everyone else, this is Judge Graham. I have called the Deaf Smith County case, the adversary hearing on the Zepeda children. I've let everyone in. A lot of you are witnesses. One of the attorneys has done what we call invoking the rule. That means that until you testify, you'll have to remain back in the waiting room. While you're there, you may not discuss this case with anyone involved in the case other than the attorneys. When we're doing it by Zoom, the likelihood of that's not much, but you can't discuss this case with anyone other than the attorneys until after you've been called to testify. So the ones that I know of, Mr. Flores, Ms. Doucette, and Ms. Hendrick, I know that you're witnesses. I'll put y'all back in the waiting room, and we'll get to you as soon as we can. Okay, we've got them back in the waiting room. This case was set for 10 o'clock. It's now 10:11. We will proceed in Ms. Cruz's absence. All right, Ms. Schulte, you can call your first witness.
Before I do, Judge, I have a housekeeping matter or two.
Okay.
I am waiting for a Meredith Williams to log in. She's a sergeant with the Hereford Police Department. And if she logs in, she is going to be called as a witness. So.
And what's her name?
Meredith Williams.
Okay.
And I believe there were some names on Mr. Northern's witness list that I didn't see come in. But they may also show up in the waiting room as witnesses. Yeah. Before I call my first witness, I would like to submit for admission into evidence what I marked as petitioner's exhibit number 1, which is business records from Hereford Regional Medical Center, accompanied by a business records affidavit that has been served on all of the parties in this case.
All right, objections?
No, Your Honor, but we still have the matter of, we have a couple of witnesses that need to be instructed, and then they need to leave the room. Or
I guess I didn't instruct your client, your client's father, Mr. Zepeda Sr. If you be sure I know.
This is Miss Cruz's father. He's here to testify on behalf of the biological father today. But
what's his name?
Miguel Carrillo.
Okay, Mr. Creo, you probably heard what I said. The rule's been invoked, so you will have to remain outside of the room where you cannot hear the testimony that's going on. Again, don't discuss it with anyone other than the attorneys involved in the case. And you'll have to step out of that conference room there, and you'll be called when we get to you as a witness.
Okay.
All right, then again, no objections to petitioners one? All right. Petitioners one will be admitted. All right, then, Ms. Schulte?
Because she is a professional witness and I'd like her to be able to get along with her day, I would go ahead and call Yuri Flores.
Sorry, who?
Yuri Flores.
Okay, we'll try. Is that a he or a she?
I thought it was a she. I may be mistaken.
Okay, we'll try it again. Yuri Flores was the one that was not connecting to the audio, but we'll try again. Well, I think we're going to just have to go ahead with another witness, and whoever needs Ms. Flores is going to have somebody try to contact her and help her with this. So, Ms. Schulte, you can go ahead with another witness.
Judge, in that case, I would call Ray Zepeda.
The father or the Ray Zepeda Jr.?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, all right. Mr. Zepeda, would you raise your right hand? You swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir. Speak up.
All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Schulte.
Wow.
Could you please state your name?
Ray Zepeda Jr.
Are you the father of Ray Zepeda III and Camilla?
Yes, ma'am.
What are their dates of birth? Do you have any other children?
Yes.
Who are your other children?
Abigail Zepeda and Raylan Zepeda.
How old are they?
Abigail's turning 18 and Raylan is 12.
Who do they live with?
Their mom, Jessica Apodaca.
Do you have any contact with them?
Yes.
Who is the mother of Ray III and Camilla?
Megan Cruz.
Do you have personal knowledge of whether or not she has any other children?
Yes.
Do you know their names?
Axel Gutierrez and Liliana Gutierrez.
Who do they live with?
Adrian Gutierrez and Serena Estrada.
How are they related to the children?
Dad and grandma.
How long have they lived with their father and paternal grandmother?
About a year.
Judge, you're muted.
Amy, are you having trouble hearing? Mr. Zepeda, you're going to have to speak up or get closer to the microphone because we're having a hard time hearing you and the court reporter can't hear you. So
Get a little closer.
all right, Ms. Schulte, go ahead.
Why did they go to live with their father and paternal grandmother?
Because Megan wouldn't pass the drug test his last time with CPS.
Let's talk a little bit about Megan. How long have you known Megan?
About 5 years.
How old did you say Camilla was?
2.
How long were you in a relationship with Megan before she became pregnant with Camilla?
We've been together for about 4 years.
At the time that Camilla Actually, I'm going to back up to before Camilla was born. Did you have a reason to become involved with CPS before Camilla was born?
Before Camilla was born? No, ma'am.
Was
The domestic, before she was born, pregnant with her, yes, ma'am.
before she was born. While she was pregnant with Camilla, did you have reason to become involved with CPS?
Yes.
What happened?
I got out of work that morning because I work overnight, and I find cigarette butts and stuff outside, so I realized she was doing cocaine, which I figured out, and I get mad and tell her, "Why are you doing this? You're pregnant," and arguments and yelling and stuff like that. Cops were called, and I got put on probation and stuff for that.
Now, you got on probation for assault on a pregnant person. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Did Megan go to the hospital the night of that incident?
That morning, yes.
And had she thought her water had broken because of the assault?
I don't know that for sure because she was always going to the hospital because of her water.
Did she get put on bed rest after that incident?
I don't think so. She was back home, I think, that day.
Did she have to rest at home after that incident?
She went home, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Were you living together at the time that happened?
Yes.
Were you living together alone, or were you living with family at that time?
Alone. We're living alone.
Was that in the house that you are currently living in?
No, ma'am.
And I'm going to ask you about homes in vague terms. We're on YouTube, and so I don't want you to give addresses just to protect your own privacy. And those of that of your family.
In this case, it will be important for the witness to identify exactly where he's lived. It's important in this case. So we don't mind. We waive any apparent problem with that.
Okay.
So where was that home that you were living in while she was pregnant with Camilla?
On Hickory Street. I can't remember the address.
Was that a home, a house, or an apartment?
A home.
Did you rent or own it?
I was renting it.
How long did you live in that home?
Not very long, maybe like 4 months.
Why did you move out?
Megan actually got us kicked out.
How did that happen?
Writing false receipts or telling me that, and then the landlord showing up and him saying that the rent wasn't paid, and that's when I figured out.
Had she ever done anything like that prior to this time?
Yes, Megan's always stealing from me. I just did a police report when she got arrested that day about her taking money out of my bank account. She's done it numerous times.
Has Megan been using drugs the entire time you've known her?
Not the whole time. I
Did
don't know how she got so bad, and I try to help her with it and believe that she could change, but You know, I wanted to, but at this point, I don't think it happened.
When you met her 5 years ago, was she using drugs?
No.
How long after you met her did she start using drugs?
That I know of, I don't know. Just one time, just like she kept taking money out. She found someone.
So if Camilla is 2, we'll say about 3 years ago is about the time she got pregnant with Camilla. Was it before she got pregnant with Camilla or after?
I said before.
Do you know if she was using any drugs other than cocaine?
Marijuana.
Did you and Megan work a case with what we call family-based safety services after the incident where you found out she was using and you assaulted her?
Yes.
And do you remember about how long that case was open?
It took forever, about a year.
If I told you that case closed in July of 23, would that sound right to you?
Yes.
Do you remember what you were asked to do for CPS during that time?
Did classes and it was quite a bit of classes. I know counseling with our relationship, a bib, drug class. That's all I could think of.
Was there a point in time that you were also using cocaine with Megan?
No.
Did you remain in a relationship with Megan after the CPS case started?
After the CPS? Yes, and they were aware of that.
So when this incident happened, you were living on Hickory Street. When you moved out of Hickory Street, where did you go to live?
With my parents.
Couldn't tell the address.
Mr. Cepeda, was it just you that lived with your parents, or you and the mother and the children?
She lived, and I lived on.
Okay, so you moved in with your parents, not you and her.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So Camilla was born in the middle of this FBSS case. Did Camilla go to live with you and your parents?
Yes.
Do you believe that you completed the services that you were asked to complete with family-based safety services?
No, ma'am, but I told them that my work schedule was so hard. I worked 6 to 6, 6 days a week, 75 hours, and they wanted me to drive to Amarillo all the time. And it was hard, but the drug tests, I passed them with flying colors.
Do you think that the only problem in that case and the only problem now is whether or not you're using drugs?
That if I am?
Yes. Is that what you see as the only issue?
Yeah, well, I paid for y'all and I paid for my probation. That's why I wanted my probation officer on here. And I'm constantly always clean. And I don't get what.
You've answered my question. Thank you. How long did you live with your parents on Avenue J?
I moved out like 6 months ago.
Was there ever a point in time where Megan lived with you in the Avenue J residence?
Not while the CPS case was going on.
That's not what I asked you. Was there ever a point that she lived with you at the Avenue J address?
No.
When you moved out 6 months ago, did you move to the home on Ironwood?
Yes, and she moved out of and then she moved with my parents, and I moved to Ironwood.
At the same time that you moved to the Ironwood address?
Yes, when I moved, she moved to my parents' house.
And if that was 6 months ago, do you remember what month it was that you moved?
6 months ago.
June? Or, wow, bad at math. February?
Yes.
Did Camilla stay with your parents at Avenue J, or did Camilla go to live with you at Ironwood?
Objection to form.
Overruled.
Open question.
Did Camilla live with you at Ironwood?
Yeah, yes, and my parents. We did whatever we could to work our schedules, and Megan was allowed to be with supervision with them.
Do you remember another CPS case opening in November of 2023?
No, ma'am.
Do you remember a time period in November of 2023 that Megan went to the pavilion?
Yes.
And was there a CPS investigation opened up after she went to the pavilion?
Not that I recall.
Do you remember talking to someone from CPS a number of times between November of 2023 and March of 2024?
No, ma'am. The first time I heard about CPS was when I got that call, and I called them back.
Do you have no memory of an investigation involving Megan that ran for 4 months between November and March while she was pregnant with Ray the Third?
No, I didn't even know that CPS was coming till the day that she had him, and we're about to get checked out, and the nurse said that they were waiting for CPS, and that's when I told her what's going on.
Okay, so let's fast forward. Actually, let's back up. After the FBSS case, did Megan continue to use drugs?
After the what?
You had the case that lasted for a year.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Did Megan's drug use get better during that case?
She does good and she slips. That's how she's always been. She does good and she slips.
After the FBSS case closed, do you think she slipped?
Yes.
Is that part of how she ended up in the pavilion?
I can't even remember, honestly, why she went to the pavilion.
In around January of this year, was Megan arrested?
Yes.
Do you know what she was arrested for?
Theft.
During the time between July of 2023, when the FBSS case closed, and now, did Megan see Camilla?
July. Yeah. Yes, I believe so, with my parents.
Did you ever supervise her visits with Camilla?
Oh, man.
Did you ever tell anybody else that you were supervising her visits with Camilla?
No, ma'am.
How often was she coming over to see Camilla?
Objection, Your Honor. There's not a foundation for his knowledge of when Megan went to visit his parents' house. I mean, if he can answer, it's asking his knowledge about her. They didn't even live at the same place. So
let me clear this up because I'm as confused as I can be. Mr. Cepeda, when you moved on to Ironwood, did Camilla stay with your parents or did Camilla move with you?
With me, but when I go to work, my mom watches them. We work up with our schedule.
Okay, so you would drop her to your mom's when you went to work. Is that what you're kind of telling me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, go ahead. That Ms. Schulte, that clears something up for me. And by the way, Mr. Northern, your objection is sustained. He wouldn't necessarily know when mom went to see his parents, so objection sustained.
Are you currently in a relationship with Megan?
No, ma'am.
When did you stop being in a relationship with Megan?
Like 6 months ago.
Prior to ending the relationship 6 months ago, how long had you been seeing her?
Rarely. Like I said, I wake up by 2, I spend time with my kids, and I'm off to work by 7.
I'm sorry, I either couldn't hear you or didn't understand. Do you understand what I'm asking you? How long did you date Megan before you broke up 6 months ago?
How long did I date her?
Yes.
Pretty much 4 years.
Well, you said earlier.
Did you say 4 years?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Cepeda, I'm going to have to ask you to speak louder and more succinctly.
Okay.
I know I'm having trouble hearing you, and I bet the court reporter is also.
Okay, sorry.
speak up.
So you said earlier that by the end of the FBSS case, you weren't in a relationship with her anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So have you been on again, off again with Megan?
We're on and off, but like I said, the way we lived is the way we lived.
What does that mean?
Like, I was at my house and she was with my parents. And that's how it is. Like, if I didn't have the kids and she went over, yeah. But 6 months, I haven't talked to her since. Besides when she called me that the baby was coming.
And it's your testimony that she never lived with you at the Ironwood residence.
Yeah, she never lived with me.
Did she ever have belongings there?
No, ma'am.
Did she live with your parents at Avenue J up until the time that Ray III was born?
Yes.
Okay. Let's move on to after Ray III was born. CPS came to visit the hospital, correct?
Mm.
Speak up. Don't shake your head. You have to answer yes or no. Speak up.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you made aware that Ray III was positive for drugs at delivery?
No, until the day that they're gonna release her.
But you are aware now that the baby was positive for drugs.
Yes, ma'am.
Did the investigator with CPS that came to talk to you talk about the next steps going forward with the investigation?
Yes.
What were you aware was going to happen after talking to her?
I'm not sure, but I had told him I wasn't comfortable signing anything without an attorney.
Did you agree while talking to the investigator to have your contact with the children supervised by your parents until both you and Megan were able to take drug tests?
No, I said that my dad could come take her and baby home. I told them, why would I need to take a drug test? I did nothing wrong. That's why I wanted an attorney. And they never asked me for a drug test. They asked Megan.
Were you contacted by the investigator for CPS after the baby was released from the hospital?
The day I called her when they went to go pick him up is when I was aware. I sleep during the day.
At the time that CPS came to pick up the children, were they both with you
Yes.
at the Ironwood home?
Yes, ma'am.
How long had they been with you at the Ironwood home?
That day I picked them up around 2 from my aunt that lives right behind me on Juniper.
How long had they been with the aunt?
Since when my mom went to work, around 6:30 in the morning, 6 in the morning.
So had they been with your parents until that time?
Yes, because I work overnight, so my mom's watching them.
So were they staying with you while you were up and with your parents or aunt while you were working?
Yes.
Where do you work?
Cabinets.
What do you do there?
I'm a supervisor as a mechanic.
How long have you been there?
5 years.
How much money do you make?
About a little over 5,000 monthly.
Do you rent or own the home on Ironwood?
Rent to own.
When you went to drug screen on July 27th, you did a UA drug screen. Did they tell you that we had asked you to do a hair test?
No, ma'am. The lady there told me. Y'all never told me.
The lady at the facility told you.
Yes.
And did you tell them you didn't have any hair?
Yes, because I've always had a bald fade the way I do. I have
Do you
pictures
not have
from years.
do you not have any body hair?
I work out ever since athletics. I've always shaved.
You have no body hair anywhere?
Maybe like trim pubic hair. That's about it.
And did you have your, I don't know the proper term for it, but the stubble, beard, goatee at the day you went to go drug test?
I had it like this, but it wasn't lined up. It was just stubble.
I'm sorry, can you repeat what you just said?
I had it the way I have it right now, but it wasn't lined up. It was stubble.
Okay.
Let me clarify something. Mr. Cepeda, did they tell you you didn't have enough body hair, or did you refuse to take the hair strand test?
They said I didn't have enough body hair. I never said I didn't want to.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Schulte.
To be more detailed, did they see the hair that you did have in your pubic area and tell you that that was not enough to test?
No, ma'am. They just asked if I had armpit hair because they seen that I didn't have enough hair.
Were you present when Megan was arrested after the children were removed?
Which time was she been arrested?
I don't remember the date, but the children were removed on July 18th, and she was arrested after that.
Was that for the theft charge?
She can't testify for you, Mr. Cepeda. You either know or you don't know.
I don't know.
Was she arrested more than once after the children were removed?
Yes, she's been arrested like 2 or 3 times, I'm gonna say.
Well, let me, you're saying she's been arrested 2 or 3 times since July 18th?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Were you there all of the time she was arrested?
Excuse me, objection to form.
Overall,
Were you where?
where she was arrested, I assume.
What is an objection to form? This isn't a deposition.
Well, I think the question is, what, Ms. Schulte, what did you mean? Was he present where she was arrested?
Were you present where she was arrested? Did you see her be arrested each of those times she was arrested?
Maybe like once. This last time I showed up to pick up the kids when she got arrested at my mom's house.
That time that she was arrested, do you know what she was arrested for?
That one was for theft, and then the recent one was for possession. And I can't remember the other one.
Are you aware that she's no longer in jail?
I heard that she was in rehab.
I'll pass the witness.
All right, thank you. Mr. Northern?
Yeah, so tell us, one of the things about your relationship with Megan that makes it difficult to live with her, can you tell the court why the relationship has ended other than what you've already testified about?
Just like I said, the stealing,
Stealing from who?
from me, my parents, her parents.
The theft from you, did it involve a bank?
Yes,
What happened?
I had to go file a police report
Because what?
because the money she had took.
What happened at the bank?
She just took the money and I had to go file a police report and then take the statement back to the bank.
How did she take the money?
Logging into my stuff and taking my card.
All right. Now, I want to be clear about something. This iron in Hereford, Texas, that's a rent-to-own contract.
Yes,
Is your ex, Megan Cruz, on that contract?
no sir,
Is she allowed to be at the house?
no,
You've been on probation because of domestic violence with Megan Cruz, correct?
yes sir.
And your probation officer during that time is who?
Yuri Flores.
Has Yuri been to your home?
Yes,
Your Honor, we have submitted some exhibits, an amended witness and exhibit list, and we would ask that those exhibits, A, B has multiple parts to it, and C, be admitted. We have provided copies to opposing counsel.
Let me get to him real quick. I'm having to go between screens.
If we needed to number them, it would be B1, B2, B3, B4.
Are you talking about all the photos?
Yes, Your Honor. Plus, there is a negative screen test that we submitted as Exhibit A.
I've got that. Okay, I've got A. And then B on are just photos, correct?
Until Exhibit C is a picture of my client's hair. Seems to be an issue in the case.
Okay, I've got that.
Couple pictures with the Camila.
Okay, all right. Objections to admission of A, B, or C?
I don't object to A. There's been no groundwork laid for admission of any of the photos, where they were taken, when they were taken.
Okay. Let me get back to him. So you're objecting to B, but not A or C, Ms. Schulte? Or you object to C because they're photos?
To B and C, I have
Okay.
no objection to A.
Right. All right, then A will be admitted. B and C, until there's been a proper predicate laid, that they will not be admitted.
Okay, if I may. Mrs. Peda, I want you to look at exhibits B. I'm going to call them out. These B1, let's remark B1, B2, B3, B4, B5, B6, B7, B8, all the way to exhibit C. First of all, Can you tell the court what are those pictures of?
My home
Your home where?
on Ironwood.
Who took the pictures?
I did.
Are these accurate representations of your home
Yes, sir.
inside and out?
Yes, sir.
When did you take the pictures?
Sometime last week.
All right. Could ask that those exhibits be admitted.
No objection.
Okay. All of Exhibit Bs are admitted.
And then, if I may, Exhibit C,
That's the
they've objected. What is that? What is Exhibit C?
Some more pictures.
I'm asking the witness. Is that a picture of you?
yes. That's double.
When was this picture taken?
Yesterday.
All right. And so, how's that different from how you appear today?
That's how the double I kind of had when I went to
When you went where?
take the drug screen.
Okay. The way you appear today, is this the way you normally tailor your hair?
Yes, I cut my hair every week.
All right. And then, since we're on it, to me, it's unusual. I've never known anybody that shaved their body hair or other hair except when I was in NCAA swimming. Why do you shave your body hair?
For athletic purposes when you go work out. And for work, it's very hot inside the rendering
Right.
and sweat a lot. And the way I like the bald head, I like to feel the same way.
Okay. Are you willing to allow your hair to grow out to an extent so a proper hair follicle test could be done?
Yes, sir.
Do you know? Well, all right. So we would ask Exhibit C, when did you take this picture?
But yesterday.
Yesterday. Are you the one that took the picture?
Yes.
All right. Is it on your camera, phone on your?
Yes.
All right. Ask that C be admitted.
Ms. Schulte, any objections?
No objections.
All right.
Okay.
Petitioners, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Respondent fathers C is admitted, and the others, we will call them respondent fathers so we don't get confused with any other.
Yeah. Is there any objection to those pictures?
She said no, so they're admitted. It's respondent father C is admitted.
Who is that?
My daughter, Camilla.
Camille? Okay. Let's go back to Exhibit A. This is from the Alcohol and Drug Testing Service. This is a urine test. Did you go to the Alcohol and Drug Testing Service as directed by CPS?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You've been on probation related to this domestic violence with Megan for about how many years?
It's going on about a year.
The probation?
Yes.
I thought you'd been on probation prior to that.
I was.
Okay. Did you have the same probation officer the
No.
last?
That was
No.
a different.
Okay, tell us about how long you've been supervised on probation.
Northern, I didn't get his answer except for no. He
I
mumbled
didn't
something
either.
else.
I didn't either. Ask the question again, Mr. Northern, and again, Mr. Zepeda. Speak up and speak more succinctly. We can't make a record if you don't make it clear what you're saying to us.
Okay. Who was your probation officer for the domestic violence with Megan Cruz?
Myra Parsons,
Okay. And how long were you on probation with Myra?
the whole year.
Okay. And then after Myra, you're on probation again?
Towards the end is when I caught the case. So I hired an attorney, and now I have 7 years probation.
Okay. And does that relate in any way to Megan Cruz?
Yes, sir.
Domestic violence with Megan Cruz?
Yes, sir.
Is it safe to say that you don't want to be involved with Megan Cruz, especially while you're on probation?
Yes, sir.
When does your probation end?
2031.
Who was your probation officer at this time?
Yuri Flores,
And you've been with her for how long?
8 months maybe?
Has she been to your home on,
Yes. Yes, sir.
does she conduct regular drug tests, drug screenings?
Yes, sir.
And how have those tests turned out?
Negative?
Except for one, back in 2021?
Yeah. I wasn't even on probation with her at that time.
All right. Do you have a problem with marijuana or cocaine at this time?
No, sir.
How long has it been since you had a problem with those drugs?
Just that one incident on probation.
Okay. Tell us about your relationship with Camilla.
It's strong. I love her. She loves me. I know she's looking for me and asking for me. And I just know she needs her dad. She can't have a mom, so she needs her dad.
How long has it been since you've seen Camilla?
I haven't seen her since the visit with St. Francis at the Nazarene Church in Hereford.
Why were you able to visit her there?
Because St. Francis had to supervise it.
All right. And when's the last time you saw, we'll call him Angel, Ray Angel. It's Ray Angel Zepeda III, but let's call him Angel. When's the last time you saw Angel?
The same day?
Okay. Have you bottle fed Angel?
Yes.
Changed his diapers?
Yes.
Taken care of him when the child was with you?
Yes.
How are you going to take care of these kids if the judge sees fit to allow you to have custody with these children? How are you going to take care of this baby?
I have a support group. My grandma, my mom, my aunt, me when I'm awake and not at work. I'm here for my kids. I'm not a bad dad. That's one thing. I support my family, and I'm a good dad.
Okay. Are these children on insurance
Yes, sir.
through your job?
Yes, sir.
How long have they been on your insurance?
5 years.
All right. Now, before this hearing, we went over this affidavit in support of emergency removal carefully, correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this point, I'm going to be going over the affidavit if counsel and the court wants to go along with me. At the bottom of page 1, it says, well, first of all, back up. This is an affidavit by Patricia McLean. Do you know her?
Yes.
Has she ever been to your home on Ironwood?
Yes.
In this affidavit, at the bottom of page 1, where does she say you live? Have you ever met with Patricia McLean on?
No.
Do you know why she would say such a thing?
No.
At the top of page, the affidavit's not numbered, Your Honor, but at the top of page 3, paragraph 2, it says, Supervisor Blunt informed Ms. Cruz and Mr. Zepeda, that would be you, that the baby could not go home without a safety plan being put into place, that the department does expect them to go into a drug screen. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
First of all, did they ask you to sign a safety plan?
Yes.
And what did you say?
No, without an attorney.
Okay, why?
So I didn't feel comfortable.
All right. And then it says, Mr. Zepeda expressed not understanding why he would have to test. It was then explained that due to being the father and having routine contact with Ms. Cruz, it is expected. Is it true or not that at the time this affidavit was signed, July 18th, 2024, that you were having routine contact with Ms. Cruz?
No, I wasn't having contact with Ms. Cruz.
The last time you had routine contact,
I heard, no, I wasn't, and I didn't catch the rest of his sentence.
Said, no, I wasn't. The only time was at the hospital to see the birth of my child.
Okay, now, this is how you need to talk when you answer everything. I understood every word you said then, but otherwise I'm getting about half of what you say.
Yes, sir, I apologize.
When was the last time you had routine contact with Miss Cruz?
Last time I had contact with Miss Cruz was at the hospital for the birth of my child.
Okay.
That wasn't his question. Routine contact, meaning over and over.
Yeah, when's the last time you had routine contact with Miss Cruz?
About 6 months ago when I moved out to my own house.
All right. You have not refused a drug test from CPS, yes or no?
No.
In the affidavit, at the bottom of page, again, these aren't numbered, page 3, the third to the last paragraph, it was reported that Mr. Zepeda reports regularly and that his last positive drug screen was May 2021, and Ms. Flores had no concerns for Mr. Zepeda. Is that a true statement as far as you know?
Yes, sir.
Now, at the bottom of the next page, the second to the last paragraph, it says, the witness says, by affidavit, telephone calls to Miss Cruz, Mr. Zepeda Jr., that would be you, were attempted on July 17th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. with no answer. Did you get a call that day?
Yes, and I think I was at work and I called the following day because they called back.
All right.
Once I was awake.
Did you ever were you ever able to communicate with this Patricia witness?
Yes.
Okay, at some point after this phone call?
Yes.
All right, tell us about that. Tell us about that phone call with Patricia.
I called her back and she wanted to know where I was at, and I told her where I was at. And that's the day they came and took the kids.
Okay. Did she ask you to take a drug test?
Yes.
And what did you say?
Okay.
All right. Did she ask you if you were having routine contact with Megan Cruz?
Yes.
What did you say?
No.
At the bottom of the next to last page of the affidavit, it says, Miss Cruz and Mr. Zepeda Jr. did not make appropriate changes to ensure safety of the children. Were you asked to make any changes for the safety of your children?
No, just to sign the papers, and that's when I called my dad and sent them both with my dad.
All right. Past witness.
All right, Mr. Adams, questions?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Zepeda, if you were to have custody of the children, do you believe that you could be protective of them from their mother?
Yes, sir.
Do you believe that they would be safe in your care?
Yes, sir.
And who do you have to help you take care of the kids?
My parents, my grandma, and my aunts.
Now, we've heard testimony that the mother has lived with your parents at some time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is she living with your parents right now?
No, sir. From what I'm aware, she's in rehab right now.
Will your parents take her back when she gets out of rehab?
No, sir.
So if you had custody of the kids and your parents helped you with that custody, you could keep any contact from the mother from happening. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And is it my understanding from the testimony before that you have kept your daughter Camilla on several occasions?
Yes, sir.
Have you kept her consistently when you were off work?
Yes, sir.
And have you made sure that she was fed and clean and safe?
Yes, sir.
And you kept her away from her mother?
Yes, sir.
And how long had you done that?
About 6 months. When I moved over there, I completely cut her off.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Schulte, do you have any other questions?
Just a few, Judge.
Okay.
Mr. Zepeda, you mentioned that Megan had been stealing money from your bank account.
Yes.
Can you, if you explained it, I couldn't hear you. Could you explain what she did?
She downloaded the app on her phone and she knew my passwords, and that's how she did it. And I went and got everything changed. Once again, I've changed my stuff like several times.
Does she have any user access to your bank account? Is she named on your bank account?
No, ma'am.
You mentioned 2 periods of time that you were on probation. You said for a year, and then there was another period of time that you're on probation now. Were there 2 domestic violence incidents you were placed on probation for?
Yes, ma'am.
Was the first one when she was pregnant with Camilla?
No, that was the second one.
When was the first one?
With her outside of Allsup's.
Do you remember when that was?
Like 3 years ago. I'm not
How
sure.
long? What? How long ago?
About 3 years ago. I'm not sure.
What happened?
Verbal and pushing, and some guys got into it with me. I got jumped and I got arrested.
And you what?
They jumped me and I got arrested.
Okay, you said I jumped and got arrested. That makes no sense to me.
No, they jumped me. They beat me up and I got arrested.
Outside of an Allsup's.
Yes, sir.
What were you doing at the time that made them jump you?
Because me and Megan were arguing, and I told them what they looking at, and that's how everything started.
Well, had you physically assaulted her in any way? Because that's what you went on probation for.
No, it was just verbal and pushing. That's all it was.
Okay, pushing is contacts. You've answered my question. Thank you.
Was there another time after you were placed on probation for assaulting her while she was pregnant that the 2 of you got into an argument?
Objection relevant.
Overrule.
Megan's always arguing. That's the point that I'm getting away from her. That's why I want nothing to do with her anymore. She's drama all the time.
Was there any incidents after you were placed on probation for assaulting her while she was pregnant with Camilla that an altercation became physical or nearly became physical?
No.
Was there a point in time that Meg was criminally trespassed from your parents' house?
Yes.
Why was she criminally trespassed?
Because they had put a restraining order at one point.
Why did they do that?
She would steal. She was always stealing.
Did she move in with them after that restraining order and the criminal trespass?
Yes, because she was living on her own on 5th Street, and her parents kind of put her out, so they took her in, talked to her, thought she could change, and that's what it was.
I'll pass the witness.
All right. Mr. Adams, did you have any further questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Northern, did you have any further questions of your client?
I do not, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Cepeda, I've got some questions just to try and clear up some things that I'm confused about. Camilla was born on, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. From that date on, did you know at any time that Miss Cruz was using drugs?
Yes. She's always used drugs. She's never.
Okay. All right. And so I assume then Ray Angel was born on. Did you know at that time that she was still using drugs?
No, to that day.
Okay. From the time that Camilla was born, did you ever take any steps to get the children away from her because of her drug use?
Yes, that's why they would stay with me and go. And while she was with my mom, that's why I did that, so she could see the kids with supervision.
When did Camilla start? When did she start staying with you? How long ago?
Like 6 months ago.
Okay, so that's 6 months, but Camilla was born 2 years ago. So there's 18 months that you didn't do anything to try and keep her from Camilla? Is that a fair statement?
Well, because she always lived on before that, and I lived with my parents.
My question is, did you do anything to try to keep her away from Camilla?
Yeah,
No, she was a drug user. Don't interrupt me. I haven't finished my question. Did you do anything court-wise or anything else to keep Camilla away from her for that 18-month period that you knew she was using drugs?
No, Camilla was staying with me. That's all. That's all I did.
And she never saw them? She never got to take them?
No, not without supervision.
Okay. And I want to be, since you broke up with her about 6 months ago, where have the children resided? And let me just, the way I understood you, I want to be sure I understood you right. You work overnight, so I guess the kids stay overnight with your parents or with your aunt, correct?
Yes.
And then you keep them when you get off of work, whatever time you're not sleeping. So would you agree with me that they really reside in at least 2 homes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify. Those pictures that you took, the last pictures, Exhibit C, especially the first one, the one of you and your facial hair, I can't, what I can see of you is so small. Do you have the same amount of facial hair right now that you did in the first page of Exhibit C, the picture you took of yourself?
No, sir. That was a stubble, and I got a haircut, and they lined it up.
Okay. And so,
Are you able to see him now, Judge?
I mean, not to see if it's long enough to.
That's
But
not
that
right.
answers my question. When did you go on probation? Your first probation was for assaulting her, I guess, before she was pregnant with Ray Angel, correct?
Yes.
All right. And the current probation that you're on for 7 years was the one that we've talked about for assaulting a pregnant person.
Yes, sir.
When did you go on the second probation? How long ago?
About 6, 7 months. Around there.
Okay. All right. The incident that led to you pleading guilty or being found guilty for either of the 2 assaults, were the children present during either of those incidents?
No, sir.
First incident, was it Allsup's?
Yes.
And they weren't with you?
No.
Where did the second incident happen that you're on probation for right now?
The second incident?
The pregnant.
On Hickory. It was on Hickory Street.
And who was living there at the time of that assault?
Me and her.
And the kids?
And Camilla wasn't born yet, and her 2 kids were with Adrian and her grandma that weekend.
But were they living with you first? Were they?
Yeah, they were living with us, but they weren't there.
Okay, they weren't there when the assault took place, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's all I had. Does anybody have further questions for Mr. Zepeda?
No, Judge.
Okay, then, I think, Ms. Schulte, I was supposed to tell you, I do have a Meredith Williams in the waiting room, and Yuri Flores is still in the waiting room.
Can I call Meredith Williams?
You want Meredith next?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, I'll get her in. Ms. Williams, this is Judge Graham. If you could unmute, please.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. There you are. Okay, thank you, Ms. Williams. If you raise your right hand, do you swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Schulte, you may proceed.
Sergeant, how are you currently employed?
I am a sergeant on patrol with the Hereford Police Department.
Are you a certified peace officer in the state of Texas?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you current on all of the trainings required to maintain your certification?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you employed by the Hereford Police Department earlier this month in July, or earlier in July?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have cause to interact with Megan Cruz and Ray Zepeda Jr.?
Yes, I did.
What day was that?
Let me refresh my recollection. Sorry. That was on July the 22nd, 2024.
What residence did you respond to?
311 Avenue J.
Do you happen to know who lives at that residence?
To my understanding, it was Ray Zepeda's family that lived at the residence. Ray was staying there with his family temporarily, from my understanding.
Objection, Your Honor. She didn't answer the question, and there was no foundation for her knowledge of who lived there. No foundation was laid.
Ms. Williams, how did you learn who you thought was living there? Who told you that?
When I responded to the house, it was Ray, and his mother, I believe is who it was, is Spanish speaking only. I don't speak Spanish, so from what I understood, it was her home, and he told me he was staying there.
He meaning Ray Zepeda Jr.?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that'll be overruled. He's a party. Go ahead.
What were you called? What reason were you called to respond to the residence?
We got a 911 call in reference to a domestic situation going on at the residence.
What did you see when you arrived?
When I arrived, Megan Zepeda was sitting in her vehicle in the driveway. She had the driver's door open and was talking to another officer. There was, and Ray Zepeda was standing on the front porch of the residence.
And when you say Megan Zepeda, do you mean Megan Cruz?
I'm sorry, I do, Megan Cruz.
It's okay. Who did you speak to when you arrived on scene?
I spoke to Ray briefly. I had spoken with him earlier in the day, so I recognized him. So I went up to ask what the situation was at that time.
And what did he tell you?
He said that Megan was at the house, had pulled up at the house, that she was wanting her EBT card, and he had been told by her mother not to give it to her. And so he was not wanting to give her the card back, and she was causing a scene at the house.
Did you speak to Megan while you were at the scene?
Briefly, however, it was more of me hearing another officer speaking to her than me speaking directly to her.
Were you present while you were on scene? Was Megan's vehicle searched?
Yes, I assisted in the search of her vehicle.
Did she consent to that search?
She did.
And was there any alleged contraband found during that search?
There was, at first there was a cigarette that we weren't sure if it was marijuana or CBD. She was not charged with that. However, during the search, I found a small clear plastic bag containing a white powdery substance in the center console of the vehicle.
Based on your training and experience, did you have reason to suspect that that substance was cocaine?
Yes, I absolutely did.
And was Ms. Cruz arrested for that possession?
She was.
What was your interaction with Mr. Zepeda earlier that day?
Earlier that day, he had come to the police department to file a report in reference to Miss Cruz using his debit card at ATMs and sending herself money through one of the CashApp, I believe, one of the online money applications, and without his permission.
Did he indicate how she was able to get his debit card?
He advised he left the house because he could not get her to leave the house, and so he wanted to separate himself, and when he did, he believed he left his debit card behind.
Did he tell you which house this occurred at?
He did. I'd have to look to I believe was the address that they had been staying at based on his statements.
Have you had interactions prior to that day with either Ray Zepeda Jr. or Megan Cruz?
I have. It's been a while, but I have had interactions with both.
Are you aware of whether any charges are pending against Megan Cruz for the theft that was reported by Mr. Zepeda?
I am not aware at this time. That was turned over to our investigations division, so I'm not sure if they have filed charges or taken it up to the DA or not.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Northern.
So I just want to be clear, on July 22nd, 2024, are you saying that Mr. Zepeda, no, let's strike that. Are you the officer that took the complaint about the unlawful use of the bank card or bank funds? Are you the officer that took that complaint?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so what I'm unclear about, are you saying in the report that Mr. Zepeda, my client, stated that the debit card was stolen from Ironwood or from the other residence, or are you sure?
He stated he believed he left it at the residence at Ironwood when he left, and she was still residing at that residence.
That's what you're saying? That's what he said?
Yes, sir.
Because earlier you said that Mr. Zepeda said he was residing at 311 Avenue J.
I said he was temporarily staying at Avenue J, which is where he went after he left the residence at Ironwood, based on his statements to me.
Okay. So as of July 22nd, 2024, you're saying that my client stated he was living at 311 Avenue J?
He advised he was temporarily staying at that residence. He did not say living. He said temporarily staying. I don't know how long he had been temporarily staying, sir.
That's important in the case. That's why I wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Did he say why he was temporarily staying there?
To separate himself from Megan, because she was still staying at Ironwood.
All right. Pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Adams.
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Anyone have follow-ups for Sergeant?
I don't, Judge.
All right. Okay, if no one else has any follow-ups, can Sergeant Williams be excused?
Yes, Your Honor. I have no objection to that.
Okay. All right, Sergeant Williams, thank you for your testimony and thank you for your service. I'll remove you so you can go about your afternoon's business.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, let's take about a 5 to 10 minute break, please.
A few minutes later.
Okay, we'll get started back as soon as everybody's back with us.
You know that the kids already just began crying that day.
Yeah.
All right, Ms. Schulte, you can call your next witness.
Your Honor, is Ms. Flores still in the waiting room?
She is.
I will call her.
Okay.
See if we have better luck with audio.
Yeah. All right, Ms. Flores, this is Judge Graham. Can you hear us now?
I can.
Okay, and you're going to have to speak up. I can barely hear you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. If you'd raise your right hand, you swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
All right, thank you. Ms. Schulte, you may proceed.
Would you please state your name?
Yuri Flores,
Ms. Flores, how are you currently employed?
with the Dev Smith County Adult Probation.
How long have you been with Deaf Smith County Adult Probation?
For about a year.
Is Ray Zepeda Jr. on your supervision load?
Yes, yes.
What is he on probation for?
Let me check. Assault. He has 2 cases, but one actually expired today. So he's currently just on assault of a household member with the previous conviction.
What was the case that expired today?
Assault causing bodily injury.
Are you aware of who the victim was in either of those cases?
I believe it was his kid's mother. Let me go back and make sure. Megan Cruz.
Thank you. Has Mr. Zepeda been complying with the terms of his probation?
Yes, he has.
Has he been reporting regularly?
Yes, he's been reporting every month. I don't see any failures yet.
Does he have a report schedule?
I'm sorry?
Does he have a report schedule?
Yes, when he comes in, we set him up for the next month based on his availability.
So his appointments are scheduled a month in advance?
Yes, they are.
Do you drug screen Mr. Zepeda?
Yes, randomly.
Are his drug tests randomly on the dates of his appointments?
Yes.
Has he ever tested positive on any of his drug tests?
Back in 2021, he did.
Has he been required to complete any services for probation as part of his terms?
He has the BIP class, which is the Batter's Intervention Program. Believe that's it. That's the only one.
I'm sorry. Has he completed BIP?
Not yet.
Do you know how much he has left?
On probation?
How much of his BIP class?
I don't believe he started it. He said he was struggling financially because that class is kind of pricey.
Do you know how much it costs?
I think the cheapest one is $300.
Is Mr. Zepeda current on his probation fees and any fine that's owed?
He just paid off his misdemeanor case, the one that expired today, but he is behind on the other one.
Do you know how much he is behind?
$887.
Does Mr. Zepeda have any terms of probation beyond the typical terms that every probationer has to follow?
The only one he has extra is the BIP class and community service hours.
Is a standard term of probation to not associate with people who are using drugs or who are breaking the law?
I would have to go back to his orders. If you give me 1 second.
Yes, ma'am.
No, it's not on here. They had taken it off because it's such a small town and everybody's like related here. So a lot of them live together, and that's why they took that off of our orders, because it did used to be there.
I understand. Have you spoken to Mr. Zepeda about his relationship with Megan Cruz?
Yes, when we did his TRAS, the mandated yearly assessment that we do, we spoke about that.
When was that?
Let me make sure. In January. The exact date. January 11th.
At that time, did Mr. Zepeda indicate he was still in a relationship with Ms. Cruz?
He said he was not, and that's why he had got that charge.
Were you aware that Mr. Zepeda was expecting another child with Ms. Cruz?
Yes, he did say that.
Were you aware whether or not Ms. Cruz was living with him?
I don't think he mentioned that. At the time of the offense, he said she was living there.
Currently, though?
Currently, no. He said that that's his ex.
I'll pass the witness.
Ms. Flores, what was the date of the offense that,
The one that he's currently on?
is that what you meant when you said at the time of the offense, he said he was living with Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
What was that date?
5/10 of 22.
Okay. And when he tested positive in 2021, what did he test positive for?
For marijuana and cocaine.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, Mr. Northern, questions?
Ms. Flores, we haven't met. I represent Ray Zepeda. He's seated next to me. My question is simply, has he presented any problems with regard to drug use during your supervision of him since the time he tested positive in 2021?
Since I've been here, which was last year, he hasn't tested positive for anything.
Have you observed anything about his behavior when he's meeting with you that would indicate he was under the influence of any drug or alcohol?
No, he hasn't.
Have you visited his home there on Ironwood one time?
Yes.
Are you aware of any issue that he's presented with regard to being violent or unable to control his behavior? Has he presented any issues like that during his time with you?
Other than the offenses, I haven't seen that.
Okay. Is there anything in your meetings with him that would indicate he's doing anything that would make him a danger to children?
Not that I can see. He just works and goes home and then comes to report. As far as the TRS, he has very little time, like free time, to get into any trouble.
Pass the witness.
Mr. Adams?
Thank you, Your Honor. When you went to visit his home on Ironwood, was he the only one there?
No, he had his family there.
And when you say his family, who are you talking about?
His mom and relatives, they had gone over to, I think he said he made some wings for them, so they were all gathered there.
And was his daughter, Camilla, there?
I did not see her.
Okay, no further questions, John.
All right, anyone else have further questions? Ms. Flores, you may or may not know the answer to this, but in 2021, when he tested positive for marijuana and cocaine, was he required to do any additional, did he have any additional things to do because of that positive drug test?
Hey, Judge, we lost Miss Schulte.
Okay, let's wait. All right, Ms. Schulte, can you hear us?
Yes, I apologize, Judge. I don't know what happened with my connection.
Okay. I had one question, Ms. Flores. Ms. Flores, I'll repeat it so Ms. Schulte hears it. As a result of his positive drug screen in 2021, was he required to do any additional anything for probation?
No, it looks like his probation was revoked for that reason.
Does it say did he serve time? Was that a misdemeanor charge or the?
That was a misdemeanor.
Okay, so
they revoked his probation, and then I think they went back to court and modified it and added time to it.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right. If no one else has further questions, can Ms. Flores be excused?
Your Honor, I had a follow-up.
Okay.
The date of the home visit, do your records show when the home visit was?
Yes. It was July 30th, about 3 days ago.
Okay. That's all I have.
All right. Anyone else? Okay, then. Ms. Schulte, I'm sorry, Ms. Flores, I apologize that you had to wait so long. We had some issues earlier, but I'll remove you so you can go about your afternoon's business. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, Ms. Schulte, next witness.
I would call Patricia McLean.
Okay. Ms. McLean, if you'd raise your right hand, please. You swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Schulte?
Could you please state your name?
Patricia McLean.
How are you currently employed?
An investigator with the Department of Family and Protective Services.
And are you the investigator assigned to the case involving Camilla and Ray Angel Zapata?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the intake that the department was assigned to investigate?
The intake was reported that Ray III had been born and mother tested positive for cocaine and THC. It was unknown at that time on the baby's test results, but his meconium had been sent off.
Did you meet with Ms. Cruz and Mr. Zapata at the hospital in Hereford?
Yes, ma'am.
What date did you meet with them?
That was on July. I'm sorry. I think it was July the 8th.
Was that while Ms. Cruz and Ray Angel were still in the hospital following delivery?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you address the concerns and allegations with both Ms. Cruz and Mr. Zepeda?
Yes, ma'am.
What actions did you take to ensure safety of the children?
We requested that a safety plan be put into place where their contact was supervised at all times.
Was someone named as a possible supervising party?
Yes, Ray Zepeda Sr.
Who gave his name, if you recall?
Ray Zepeda Jr. provided his name and called him while I was present.
Did Mr. Zepeda Sr. come to the hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he agree to be a supervising party?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you explain that the concept of supervision meant?
The concept of supervision was explained to him that they would be in eyesight and earshot of the children at all times when they're present with the parents.
Did he agree to that?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you present a written safety plan to Ms. Cruz and Mr. Zepeda Jr.?
Yes, ma'am.
Did they refuse to sign it?
Yes, ma'am.
Did they verbally agree to comply with the terms of the service plan pending speaking with an attorney?
Yes, ma'am, they did.
Had they not agreed to the terms of that safety plan, what would you have done or considered doing?
We would.
But wait, excuse me. Objection. That is pure speculation. What she would have done.
Overruled.
Under all the circumstances.
Overruled. You can answer, ma'am.
Okay. I would have contacted my supervisor and legal to possibly remove at that current time.
I think the concerns as to Ms. Cruz have been testified to extensively, but primarily, would you say Ms. Cruz's drug use was the major concern you had with her and her
Yes,
safety?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Did you ask her after she was released from the hospital to complete drug testing for the department?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you also ask at the time you were in the hospital for Mr. Zepeda Jr. to complete drug testing?
We did, and he stated that he tests for his probation, and I expressed that I could reach out to his probation officer and confer with her regarding his testing.
Why did you want him to also complete a test for the department?
Because there had been history with the department. There had been concerns previously with him using, and we were informed, and it was our understanding that they were together and that there was a chance he was using along with me.
Objection, Your Honor. That is hearsay.
I'll lay a foundation for it.
We have heard, we had reason. Objection.
I was trying to sustain it when everybody kept talking. Go ahead.
Ms. McLean, did you interview both Ms. Cruz and Mr. Zepeda Jr. at the hospital?
The best that I could, yes.
Did you ask them where they were living?
I did. Yes, ma'am.
Can you please describe how that conversation occurred?
They were short with answers, and so I asked them to verify information. And I asked if the address on Avenue J was their current and correct address.
Did Ms. Cruz say that was correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did Mr. Zepeda Jr. say that was correct?
Yes.
After Ms. Cruz and Ray Angel were released from the hospital, did you attempt to make contact with them to set up a home visit?
I did. Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to reach them?
No, ma'am.
Were you able to reach Mr. Zapata Sr., who was supposed to be the safety monitor?
No, ma'am.
Did you go by the Avenue J residence in an attempt to make contact?
Yes, ma'am. Multiple times.
Did anybody ever answer the door for you?
No, ma'am.
Were there ever times you believe somebody was home?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you describe that, please?
The first attempted visit, while approaching the home, it was children or something similar. Noises were heard coming from inside the home. Upon knocking, those noises ceased.
Did you
I'm sorry,
also
Did I miss,
attend?
did she say what address?
The Avenue J.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
And at that time, based on the information you were provided by Mr. Cruz or Ms. Cruz and Mr. Zepeda, you believe that was where they were living, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you also attempt to contact Mr. Zepeda Sr.'s wife, who I believe's name is Rosa?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Were you able to speak to her?
No, ma'am.
Did you try to call Mr. Zepeda Jr.?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you try to call him prior to the day of removal?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to reach him?
No, ma'am.
Did you leave him a voicemail?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he ever return your call?
The day of removal, he called after we were already in the process.
Did you ever send text messages to any of the parties?
Yes, ma'am.
Who did you send text messages to?
I sent text messages to all parties.
Did you ever receive a response?
I received a response from Miss Cruz later that evening after the last one I sent on, I believe it was the 17th.
What was the content? You may not remember word for word, but what was the subject of the text that you sent that day?
That I sent to her?
Yes.
That I was needing to contact them to speak regarding the case, and regarding, just what was going on with the case, and that I hadn't been able to get in touch with them.
What day did you state that was?
I believe it was on the 17th.
And was it the next day that the children were removed?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it on July 8th that they agreed to follow the supervision plan?
Yes, ma'am.
From July 8th to July 17th, did either Ms. Cruz or Mr. Zepeda complete a drug screen?
No, ma'am.
During that time period, were you able to contact any party, see the residence, or lay eyes on either of the children?
No, ma'am.
When you received the order for removal, where did you go first in an effort to pick up the children?
To the residence on Avenue J.
Were you able to make contact with anybody there?
No, ma'am.
Where did you go next?
The next address was, I believe, on
Where did you get that address?
That address came from law enforcement.
Where did you go next?
After that, we went to a residence on North Highway 385, which was maternal grandparents' residence.
Were you able to locate either Ms. Cruz or Mr. Zepeda or any of the children?
No, ma'am, not there.
At what point did you locate the children?
After attempting that residence is when I received a phone call from Mr. Zepeda. And he provided me the address on Ironwood.
At that point, did you go to the Ironwood residence to pick up the children?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was present when you went to that residence?
At the home?
At Ironwood.
Okay. It was Mr. Zepeda Jr., Ray the Third, and Camilla.
Did you speak with Ray Jr. at that time about who else was living in the home?
Yes.
And what did he state to you?
He stated that it was just him and the children.
Did you see any evidence in the home that contradicted that?
The thing I noticed was pictures of Miss Cruz's older two children on the wall.
And those children have a different father, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you again, at the time you removed the children, ask Mr. Zepeda to complete a drug screen?
I don't recall at that time asking him at the time of removal.
Were you aware that he did go drug screen after the children were removed?
Yes, ma'am.
And did he complete a UA?
Yes, ma'am.
And was it negative?
Yes, ma'am.
That drug screen was admitted into evidence. He completed that drug screen on July 27th. Does that sound correct to you?
Yes, ma'am.
And he was asked to drug screen on July 8th.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. We told him that we would speak with his probation regarding his drug screens, and then he was asked again later.
At the time that the children were removed, did Mr. Zepeda have facial hair?
He looked about how he looks now. Yes, with that stubble or however you want to say it.
Do you think that he would have been able to complete a hair strand with that amount of hair?
Objection, Your Honor. There's no foundation of this. Witness can make that kind of judgment call.
Sustained.
Would you have concern? Would you be concerned if Megan Cruz had been living with Ray Zepeda Jr.?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Due to her drug use and the previous domestic violence that has occurred between them.
Are you the current investigator in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
As such, are you the department's custodian of records?
Yes, ma'am.
Does the department routinely document and make records at or about the time that things happen?
Yes, ma'am.
And are those records kept in our ordinary course of business?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you reviewed the previous cases regarding Ms. Cruz and Mr. Zepeda Jr.?
Yes, ma'am.
Was there an investigation that opened in November of 2023?
Yes, ma'am, there was.
Why was that investigation opened?
Miss Cruz had been taken to the pavilion and she tested positive for cocaine and marijuana.
At that time, where was Mr. Zepeda Jr. living?
At that time, it was believed he was living at the house on Avenue J.
During the course of the investigation, was Mr. Zepeda Jr. interviewed about his relationship and contact with Ms. Cruz?
Yes, ma'am, he was.
Did he indicate that their relationship was on again, off again, and he did not want to get back?
Objection, leading.
Sustained.
What did the record indicate about the contact between Ms. Cruz and Mr. Zepeda?
Objection, hearsay.
I'm sorry?
Business records.
Objection, hearsay. This record hasn't been admitted. She hasn't testified. She has personal knowledge. Objection.
She's testified.
Excuse me. Ms. McLean, all I want to hear is what told you or told the CPS worker at the time. Not
Yes.
anything else, just what he said.
Yes. It was stated that in one of his conversations that Megan, Miss Cruz, was coming to the home to see the children almost every day.
It's coming to Avenue J.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Schulte.
Do you recall when that conversation was had with Mr. Zepeda?
March 13th, 2024.
And was the investigation closed shortly thereafter?
Yes, ma'am.
Prior to that investigation, did Ms. Cruz and Mr. Zepeda work a case for family-based safety services?
Yes, ma'am, they did.
Did either of them successfully complete services in that case?
No, ma'am.
Were there safety provisions in place when that case was closed?
Yes, ma'am, there were.
And what were those?
Camilla was in the care and custody of the paternal grandparents, Rosa and Ray Zepeda Sr.
Was there an understanding at that time that they would be seeking custody of Camilla?
Yes, ma'am, that's what was stated.
Did they follow through on seeking custody?
No, ma'am.
Is the department concerned about the safety of Ray Angel III and Camilla in the custody of either of their parents?
Can you repeat that again?
Are you concerned about the safety of the children if they were to be returned to either parent?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe that returning them to either parent would present a continuing danger?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Due to Miss Cruz's drug use, that poses a danger to the children. And then to the on-again, off-again relationship with Mr. Zepeda, having the children with him, allowing Miss Cruz to come back to the home, and then the domestic violence that has previously occurred.
To your knowledge, has Mr. Zepeda ever completed services related to the domestic violence?
Not to my knowledge.
And has Mr. Zepeda indicated a change? Strike that. Based on what you have observed and what you have reviewed, Do you believe that Mr. Zepeda can be protective against Ms. Cruz?
I don't.
Do you have any doubt that Mr. Zepeda loves his kids?
No, none at all.
But does he have a history of putting his relationship with Ms. Cruz above those children?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you asking today that the department be named as the temporary managing conservator of Camilla Zepeda and Ray Angel III Zepeda?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Where are the children currently placed?
With maternal grandparents.
I'm sorry.
Are they
I'm sorry. Maternal or paternal?
Maternal.
Okay. Thank you.
Are they also in Hereford?
Yes, ma'am.
And are there other family supports that are in place to help with the children?
Yes, ma'am.
Who are those?
Miss Cruz's older children, their paternal grandmother.
And is that the grandmother that her older children are living with?
Yes, ma'am.
And is she helping provide childcare while the maternal grandparents are working?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that allow all of the children to have contact with each other?
Yes.
Do you believe that the department being named as their temporary managing conservator and the children remaining in their current placement while both parents work services is in their best interest?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll pass the witness.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Northern.
Yes, Ms. McLean. Since you were able to answer a question earlier to speculation, let me ask you this. What if the parents, Megan's parents, don't want to have responsibility for this child anymore? Would it be your position at that point that it would still be better for these children to be with foster care or some other care other than their biological father?
Yes, sir.
Why is that?
Due to the history with Mr. Zepeda.
Okay, let's talk about that. Are the reasons that you have for stating that there is immediate danger to the physical and mental health of these children, is that going to be found in the affidavit that you supplied in support of the petition of removal? Is that where we look to find your reasons?
Yes.
Okay, let's go through that real quick. Do you have the affidavit in front of you?
I do.
You swore to that affidavit under oath. Let's
Yes.
look at the bottom. It says, page 1, Ray Zepeda Jr., current address, 311 Avenue J. See that right there? Now, you signed this affidavit on July the 18th, 2024, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so how did you find out that Mr. Zepeda was living at? How'd you find that out?
After he called me, after this had been filed.
Okay. Did you know, were you informed that he has been renting that home to own for approximately 6 months?
No, ma'am. No, sir. Sorry.
Didn't know that.
No, sir.
Does it make sense to you that he would pay rent on a home on Ironwood and also live at 311 Avenue J?
No, sir.
So you said just a minute ago that my client's history of putting his relationship with Miss Cruz over the care of his children was one of the reasons you thought the children should be removed. Do you remember saying that?
Yes, sir.
What specific, have you ever seen him to be under the influence of drugs or alcohol?
No, sir.
How many times have you met with him?
3 or 4.
Once at the hospital.
Yes.
Once at the house the day you came and picked up the kids.
Correct.
What other times?
I met with him after that as well.
Okay, and so there's 3 times. In any of those 3 times, did you believe him to be under the influence of any drugs or alcohol based on his behavior or words or anything?
Not to my knowledge.
Did you observe anything during those 3 visits where he put the children at risk by something he said or did?
No.
Does Camilla appear to be attached to her dad?
Yes.
So I've been through your affidavit multiple times, and I can only find this thing that where at the bottom of page 1, you say Megan Cruz and Ray Zapata Jr. live at the same house. That would be a problem, but they don't live together. And then you say, I discussed the need for a safety monitor for the safety plan if they want to be able to go home with the baby. They never signed it. Are those the 2 reasons in your affidavit that you're saying my client's children should be taken from him?
The history with him and Megan back and forth and the domestic violence that has occurred as well.
Okay.
Him allowing her back.
Judge, I'm going to object. Judge, I'm going to object to this line of questioning. The affidavit was evidence for emergency removal of the children and is not evidence and has not been submitted as evidence in this case. This is almost all asked and answered at this point.
Your Honor, if I may respond, she stated that the reasons for removal are stated in this affidavit. That's what she said.
Let's listen. What I've heard that's been asked and answered repeatedly is her reasoning as to why neither parent should have the child. So I don't want to hear that again.
Understood. Can you tell the court any evidence to support the allegation that Megan and Mr. Zapata at this point in time have an on-again, off-again relationship that puts the children in danger?
I guess I'm under, can you rephrase that a little bit? Possibly.
Can you provide any testimony, any evidence to support your allegation that the on-again, off-again relationship of Megan and my client at this point puts the children in immediate danger?
Upon my initial interview with them, it was not stated to me that they were not in a relationship, and it was not indicated to me when I asked where they were residing that there was another residence and that they were living apart. I was led to believe that they were still together and living at the Avenue J residence.
But you saw no evidence the date that you went to the residence on Ironwood. You did not, Megan wasn't there, correct?
Correct.
You didn't see any evidence that she was living there other than pictures on the wall of his stepchildren. That's what you said, correct?
Correct.
Is there anything else you can point to us to show this on-again, off-again relationship at this time?
Not specifically, no.
And if she's out of Mr. Zapata's life and Mr. Zapata has pushed her out of his life, what is the danger to the children if they reside with their dad at this point? Can you tell us?
No.
Pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Adams.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. McLean, what was Mr. Zapata Jr.'s demeanor when you talked to him at the hospital?
He was very quiet and just kind of mumbled and didn't really want to answer questions.
And you say you don't believe he really wanted to answer questions. Do you think he felt uncomfortable talking to the department at the time?
Possibly, yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to get an understanding of Mr. Zapata's state of mind at the time. You said that they never told you that they weren't a couple. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did they ever tell you that they were a couple?
No.
And it's your testimony that you believe that it would be a danger to the children for them to live with Mr. Zepeda at this point in time. Is that correct?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Right. Anyone have further questions for the witness, Ms. McLean?
Just a few things, Judge.
Okay.
Ms. McLean, did you go back to the residence after removal?
Yes, ma'am.
Which residence?
Had anything changed? I'm sorry, Judge, the Ironwood residence.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, the Ironwood residence.
Had anything changed since the last time you were there?
I did notice that the pictures that I had noticed previously were not there. And when we were showed around the home, there are beds for the stepchildren as well.
Did the department receive medical records from the time that Ms. Cruz and and the baby were in the hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you review those medical records?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a copy of them in front of you?
I do.
Could you refer in those medical records, which have previously been admitted as Exhibit 1, to page 11?
Yes, ma'am.
Was there a note made? Perhaps I'm directing you to the wrong page. Page 16.
Okay.
Page 11 of 18 of the medical records. The number will be on the bottom of the page.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What page?
Page 11 of 18 of the records, according to the numbering on the bottom of the pages. There is a progress note.
Let's give everybody a chance to get there. I'm just about to get there. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There was a nurse's note made at 23:45. Can you read that note, please? It's in the center of the page.
Yes, ma'am. It states newborn in bed next to mother. Mother awake laying on right lateral position. Assumed father laying next to newborn. Instructed mother to place newborn in OC if needed to sleep to avoid accidental suffocation of newborn. Mother voiced understanding and stated, "I'm just cuddling." Bulb syringe within reach.
Has Mr. Zepeda insisted throughout this hearing that they are not in a relationship
Yes, ma'am.
and that he is, however he chooses to put it, done with her?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you heard the testimony of law enforcement that Ms. Cruz was in fact staying at the Ironwood residence based on Mr. Zepeda's own statements?
Yes, ma'am.
And does this note indicate that the three of them were laying in bed together
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
hospital snuggling?
Yes, ma'am.
Are those things consistent with not being in a relationship?
No, ma'am.
Why is it dangerous for children to be around people that are using drugs?
It inhibits their functioning as a parent. They're not able to provide and respond to children's needs that would be of a normal person not under the influence.
Why is a parent who continues to be around and continues to maintain a relationship with someone who is using drugs, why is that a safety concern?
Can you repeat that?
Why is a non-using parent continuing to spend time with someone who is using a safety concern?
Well, we can stipulate that it's dangerous for my client and the children to be around somebody using drugs.
Okay.
That's not an issue.
Okay, I'll pass the witness.
All right. Anyone else? Further questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then. Ms. McLean, I assume I know the answer to this, but the current placement, maternal grandparents, is part of them keeping the children that they not allow either parent unsupervised contact with the children?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you had any problems with that?
No, Your Honor.
And in reference to something Mr. Northern mentioned, have you received any information that the maternal grandparents no longer wish to be placement for these children?
They've just expressed concerns with stipulations that St. Francis have in place as far as placement regarding possible classes and having people that are in contact with the children be background and screened.
They're not liking those things. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, then. Do we want her to stay, Ms. Schulte?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Ms. Schulte, do you have any other witnesses?
I have no additional evidence. We'd rest.
All right. Thank you. All right. Mr. Northern, witnesses?
Call Miguel Carrillo.
He's not in my waiting room.
We'll switch chairs with Ray. We'll have a seat right here. This is Ray Carrillo, Your Honor, counsel. This is Miguel Carrillo. Can you hear us? It's frozen.
I believe the judge is frozen.
All right. Everyone froze up there for a minute on my end. Are we ready to proceed with this witness?
We are, Your Honor. I present Miguel Carrillo for being sworn.
All right. Sir, if you'd raise your right hand.
Yes, sir.
You swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
The truth.
Okay, thank you, sir. If you'd spell your first and last name for the court reporter, please.
Miguel Carrillo.
Would you spell it for the court reporter?
Miguelcarrillo.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Northern.
Can I call you Miguel today? Can I call you Miguel?
Yes, sir.
All right. How old are you?
I'm 46.
All right. And how are you related to the children in this case?
I'm the grandpa.
Okay. And how are you related to Megan Cruz?
Megan is my stepdaughter. Which she's my daughter.
You raised her?
I raised her since she was 3 months old.
All right. At this time, has the CPS put the responsibility on you and your wife to take care of the two children, Camilla and Ray Angel?
Yes, they have.
Okay. How long have you been doing that?
2 weeks.
Okay. And how's that been going?
Well, I raised my kids, and I'm not okay with raising two babies when they have their father here, that he can do it, and he loves and he cares for those kids, That baby Camila, she's 2 years old, and she understands everything, and she knows when she goes to sleep crying for her dad, wake up asking for the dad. You think it's a problem for her dad to have her back? I know Megan is the problem.
Excuse me, sir. I need you to just answer the question you're asked. I don't need a long, drawn-out answer.
Okay, so tell me what problems, if any, are there with Megan continuing to have custody and unsupervised visitation with the children? What problem is that?
Well, Megan is locked up for now, so Ray having the kids is not going to be a problem. She's going to be locked up for a while.
Is it what's your wife's name?
Carlota Carrillo.
And have you and your wife made a decision about continued supervision of these children?
Yes, we have, and we're not going to continue taking care of the kids.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that. You are or you're not?
I'm not.
Okay, you want them placed outside of your home?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't get your answer.
Do you have a preference of where you'd like the children placed?
Yeah, they need to go with their father.
Why is that?
Because he's the father, and I mean, the baby, I mean, every day and morning, nights, asking, crying for dad. And, you know, the guy has no, you know, he's a loving guy, you know. I know him about 5 years,
All right.
you know.
So in the past, he pleaded guilty and convicted of assaulting your daughter. You understand that?
Yes, I understand.
Do you believe that their relationship is what sometimes called a toxic relationship?
Yeah, she's real toxic.
She is, or the relationship is toxic?
She is real toxic.
All right. Have you spent enough time around Ray Jr. to have an opinion of how he is as a father?
Yeah.
Tell the court what that is.
Well, you know, before they had Camila, you know, he took care of my other two grandchild, you know, and then he, you know, they were living together and he took good care of them. And we didn't have no complaints about him, you know. Then she started doing drugs and that's when everything soured, you know. So, but, you know, I can, you know, I don't see why, you know, he took two kids and was a good father to them.
Okay. There's been a lot of discussion about an event on July 22nd where the police were called to the paternal, to Ray's parents' house. Were you there that day?
I went that day because Ray called me that her mom, he went over there to his mom's because Megan was acting crazy and she had already kicked her out of that house that day that the kids were removed from her. And so I went over there because she kept calling and Ray called me to go control her because the cops were there. When I got there, the cops started searching the car.
Okay. Where does Ray live?
He don't live there. I don't know the address, but I don't know. He lives in the west side of town.
Ironwood?
Ironwood.
Has Megan ever lived at Ironwood?
No, we haven't.
There's been some testimony that some of Ray's stepchildren pictures on the wall. Why would that be?
Why?
Mm-hmm. Did he help raise them?
He raised the kids.
Okay.
You know.
Tell the court, if you can, briefly why you and your wife have decided not to continue taking care of these children.
Because it's not fair for those kids to grow up with me when they have their father that's loving and wants his kids. I can't say that he don't want his kids. I mean, he cries every time he sees those kids because he wants them.
All right. Have you ever, since Camila was born, have you ever seen Ray using drugs or under the influence of drugs?
No, he hasn't.
You haven't seen that?
No, I haven't seen it.
All right. Pass the witness.
All right, Ms. Schulte?
Mr. Carrillo,
Yes.
was there a period of time that Megan lived with Ray's parents?
Megan, on last year sometime, you know, she started, when she got into drugs, you know, we locked her up, put her in jail. She got bonded out. And, you know, her mom felt sorry for her because we kicked her out of the house where she lived after she got knocked out. So you know what? You're not going to straighten out. She had already lost. Serena.
Okay. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. That's not the question you were asked. Ms. Schulte, ask him again. And sir, just answer the question you're asked, please.
Okay.
Ms. Schulte?
Did Megan live with Ray's parents for a while?
She lived there probably, I don't know how long she lived there. Like I said, we kicked her out of the house and.
No, here you go again. You've answered the question. Yes, she lived there.
Yeah, she lived there.
Okay, there's your answer. Sir, that's your answer.
Okay.
Is it your testimony today that if the court decides that the children should not go back to Ray, you still don't want to be placement for the kids?
What should I be? What should I be
Sir, you don't ask questions. You're answering questions. You don't ask questions.
Okay, sir, I understand you want the children to go back to Mr. Zepeda. If that does not happen today, are you still saying you don't want the kids in your home?
Well, I'm going to do the best thing for them.
That still does not answer my question, sir.
That is my question. I'm going to do the best thing that needs to be done for their safety for them. That's what I'm going to do.
I'll pass the witness.
Right. Mr. Creel, let me ask you a question. If the court today orders what's called an expedited home study on Mr. Zepeda Jr., which means speed it up, but I don't know exactly how long that could be, a week or two. Do you want the children removed from you while the court's waiting to get the home study on their father? Or do you want them placed somewhere else? Or do you want to keep them until that comes?
I'll keep him till he gets,
Okay. All right. That's all I needed to hear. Thank you. Mr. Adams, any questions?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Creo, have the kids been safe at your house?
Yeah, that's the safest place they can be.
And you and your wife love those kids, is that correct?
Correct.
I mean, it was my understanding that the kids are doing well at your house, is that correct?
Right.
But it's your testimony that you believe that they're better off with their father, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, no further questions.
Anyone else?
Your Honor, I had a brief question.
Okay.
Can you tell the court how much you spent to help Ray get custody from Megan?
Me?
Yeah.
$5,000.
Is that an indication of how much you believe in him as a good parent? Yes or no?
Yeah, I paid. I mean, if I didn't think he was good enough, I wouldn't pay for the lawyer's fees. I paid for the lawyer's fees so he can get his kids back. Because I believe in him.
Okay, Mr. Creo, this is your last warning to just answer the question you're asked.
Pass the witness.
Anyone else? Mr. Creo, since you paid for it, you said you hired a lawyer. Is there ongoing litigation for him to get custody of his children that you paid for, or do you know?
Repeat that again.
You said you paid $5,000 to a lawyer so that Mr. Zepeda could get custody of his kids. Is that still ongoing? Is there a lawsuit pending on that?
It's still ongoing.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, he hired our firm to do that.
Okay, all right. All right, then if no one else, does anyone else have further questions for Mr. Creo?
I do not.
Okay, Mr. Creo, then you'll have to step out of that conference room and again, don't discuss the case with anyone other than the lawyers.
May he be excused, Your Honor? He has a business.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, nobody has objections, do they? No, okay, you're free to go, Mr. Creo.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Northern, any other witnesses?
Your Honor, we have no more witnesses or evidence to present.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Adams, any witnesses?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
All right. I've still got Haven Duchette, Keisha Hendrick, and Julie Van Gelderen in the waiting room. Do they need to stick around?
I'm not calling any of them, Judge. I don't know who one of those people is.
Well, everybody's rested, so I don't guess it matters. I just don't want them hanging around any longer than they have to. Well, we're still waiting on her. Miss Duchette, Miss Hendrick, if you both unmute, please. Okay, can you all both hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All parties have rested and no one ended up calling you as a witness, so you are free to go.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Sorry to waste your time.
That's okay. Thank you.
I don't know if I guess if nobody had called Miss Van Gelderen, I'm not sure why she's here.
She was the covering supervisor.
Oh, okay. Well, somebody can let her know then that everyone's rested. All right, Mr. Adams, recommendations.
Your Honor, as far as I know, the children have been doing well in their current placement, but in listening to all the evidence with the continuing involvement of CPS, I don't see why the children should be taken away from their father.
All right, so your recommendation is that they be placed with the father?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, all right then. Give me just a minute here. Do we know, is Miss Cruz also, as far as we know, is she in Hereford? Maybe she's in rehab, maybe she's not, but was she residing in Hereford?
Yes, but right now she's in rehab.
Do you know where she's in rehab, sir? Senecor? Okay, that gives the department something to check on. Okay, then I can't order that. I can't order that for her. So, okay, I'm going to continue the department as temporary managing conservator. I'm going to order that the children be placed with their father, Mr. Ray Zepeda Jr. I'm going to order an expedited home study on Ray Zepeda Jr. And I'm sure this, Ms. Watson, you probably answered this. I'm sure part of a home study includes that they check on anybody that will be caregivers, which that would include, from what I've heard, Mr. Zepeda's family, since they keep the kids overnight while he's at work. I want to be sure they're part of that, as well as the paternal aunt.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to order that Mr. Zepeda not shave or cut any body hair to a length that prohibits him from completing a hair strand drug screen. Mr. Zepeda, you may have to ask the people who drug test how long your hair needs to be. And you need to tell them where on your body you have hair and let them see if that's long enough, because that's very important at this point.
Sure.
I'm going to order that both parents' hair strand and UA drug screen. Where did they test out of Hereford? Anybody, Tippy, you know?
There's no testing site in Hereford. They have to go to Amarillo, Your Honor.
Okay, so Care Express?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to order both parents to both hair strand and UA drug screen by 4 p.m. tomorrow, August 3rd, at Care Express in Amarillo. Okay, our next hearing will be a status hearing. That will be on September 6th, 2024. I hopefully that the expedited home studies returned on Mr. Zepeda. Parties and attorneys can go on the court's online docket a day or two in advance of September 6th to see exactly what time that hearing will take place. All right, I believe this was our last hearing for the day, so we will stand in recess. Everybody have a good week.
I'm a little slow. I've never done one of these before. So will my client not get the children until the home study's completed?
No, I said, I didn't say that. Placement now, but I want the expedited home study to be sure nothing shows up that I haven't heard about today. So no, they'll be placed with him now.
So how will he just goes to Megan's house?
No, he talks to the department or St. Francis, and they arrange how the kids are going to get back to him. So we can do that. We can do that right now. We can, when we're through. Tippy, who do we need to put in the waiting room so they can discuss that?
It would be DFPS, myself, and placements here. Is he in the other room or is he gone?
He's right here. What's your phone number, Miss Watson?
Well, he's going to put us in a breakout room.
Okay.
I'll give it to you in the breakout room since we're on YouTube.
So let me stop that right now. we've completed